You're watching The End Zone, sponsored by Brahms.
And welcome to another edition of The End Zone along with Camryn Johnson. I am Colby Daniels. What a crazy week it's been. OU is off, and we thought maybe, that might slow things down. I know the Thunder are getting underway, and we're going to talk some Thunder basketball a little bit later. Oklahoma State off to a rough start, and you knew there was going to be some storylines there, but maybe not of the magnitude that ultimately took place. Camryn, I'm still in full-blown recovery mode after being in Stillwater multiple times this week, and I guess still digesting everything that happened.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise to me. I know we were talking about before the show got started. You thought maybe if you found out that Gundy was getting fired after that TU game, that would have made sense. But then Monday rolls around, he does the press conference as usual, does the coaches show. You think, all right, he's around at least another week. And then bang. And it was just it was a shock to me. I mean, you said it best. It was just kind of this whole, what just happened?
Yeah.
And now here we are. But you got to see it firsthand, everything that happened in the aftermath and the new coaches. So, yeah. Yeah, it was, you're there on Friday night. You're watching this thing go down. You can hear the students chanting, "Fire Gundy, fire Gundy." I think we talked about it even last week. If they had lost that game, that his job was probably in jeopardy. It happens. A lot of the questions in the postgame were about his job status and, what his message to the fans were. I thought that his tone was very much like, I'm aware of the position I'm in. I'm aware of the hot seat. And then Sunday comes, no news. Monday comes, no news. He's at his press conference. And by that point, I had pretty much written off the fact that they were going to pull the trigger on Mike Gundy this week. Not saying that it wouldn't potentially happen after the Baylor game, but when you start a game week, it just to me seemed like the wheels are in motion for this week at least, and nothing was going to happen. So Tuesday, when the news ultimately broke, I was pretty stunned. Let's kind of rewind back through the series of events because I thought it was interesting. Friday night, obviously, the seat was red hot, and he was asked in the postgame, what ultimately are you saying to the fans who are calling for your name?
Fans are upset. They're all wondering if you should be the head coach even tomorrow morning. What would be your message to the
My message, I gave you a message earlier about the fans. They were awesome tonight. They really were. The stadium was full, and they were fired up, and they were awesome. But those aren't decisions that I make. And my decision is to do exactly what I mentioned earlier and get these guys and keep moving forward and go on down the road, and that's what we do.
So the questions didn't end with the Friday night post-game press conferences. They continued through Monday's press conference when Mike Gundy was at the podium talking about his job status.
I'm under contract here for, I think, about 3.5 years or 3.4 months. When I was hired here to take this job, ever since that day, I've put my heart and soul into this, and I will continue to do that until at some point if I say I don't want to do it or if somebody else says we don't want you to do it.
So he does that press conference. Some have kind of wondered if him saying my contract is still for X amount of time, if maybe that got the wheels turning or if they were turning ahead of time. I'm not going to play into the conspiracy theories, but clearly the loss to Tulsa got the wheels in motion and, probably the details of how all that came to fruition by Tuesday morning could be debated.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting to me, and maybe it's just the way he copes with things, but just how calm he was when being asked those questions. I mean, I've seen coaches where they get asked that and they shut it down immediately, but he took them in stride, and he even said, I think it was on Monday, he was like, it's a fair question to ask, so I'm going to answer it. Kudos to him for just being straightforward with that. But yeah, it's certainly interesting, the timeline. What do you think about it coming, mid-season versus maybe letting it play out through and then at the end of the year?
I mean, as Chad Weiberg said on Tuesday, there's not really a good time to fire a head coach, right? I mean, if you do it at the end of the year, you're putting yourself in a situation where you have to scramble to find a replacement. If you do it in the middle of the year, you open up a 30-day transfer portal window. You potentially tell the team that you no longer believe in this product, and maybe the team just cashes it in the rest of the way. I mean, there are dangers, I think, either way. Some would say, based on the 3 games that we've seen so far this year, that this team wasn't going to do anything anyway, so why not pull the trigger? Others would say Mike Gundy's earned the opportunity to not get let go 3 games into a season and at least finish something and let him go at the end of the year. Again, there's no good time to fire a coach and to turn over a football program, especially when football, I think now financially means as much to universities as all big football programs do. Chad Weiberg was definitely torn up on Tuesday. You could sense that he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to go through all that. It was a very tough decision, to your point about mid-season, after the season, but something that he ultimately felt like had to take place.
As you know, today we made the decision to part ways with Coach Gundy. This was not something that, I thought we would be doing today on this Tuesday, right? I fully expected to beat the University of Tulsa. I expected the results of this season to be different than they've been so far.
Given that history, was he offered the opportunity to see out the season? Was that on the table at any point?
That was not discussed.
So there you go. It wasn't discussed. They felt like they needed to move on. And Doug Meacham is now the interim head coach at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting to watch unfold. I'm glad that there's the alumni ties there, so that'll, that you've got a guy who's passionate about the program anyway. It's always really interesting because you don't have much to lose. I mean, you're just there to fill the hole until then, so you can kind of get away with trying some stuff, and it'll be really interesting to watch this weekend. Nobody's going to expect anything out of them the rest of the way. In fact, I would say, barring something significant changing, they will be an underdog in every game they play for the remainder of the season. We did get the opportunity to speak with Doug Meacham yesterday after the Cowboys' Wednesday practice, and they're getting ready for Baylor, obviously, this weekend. So what was his message to the team?
Really, it's just about having fun, all right? I want them to have fun. We've cut back a smidge at practice. Let's get rested. Let's take care of our bodies. Let's be strong in the fourth quarter.
The one good thing about Gundy getting fired in the middle of the season, sometimes you don't have that closure. They did give Gundy the opportunity to speak to the team, as Doug Meacham told the media in his media availability.
21 years, you deserve the opportunity to do that, doesn't matter. So I'm glad he got a chance to do it. He and his wife came out, and it was heartfelt, and I'm glad that he had the opportunity to do that. Kids, they're emotional, and it's a big deal. That guy, a lot of these kids came here because of Mike, and then when that occurs, they're kids, they're going to react a certain way. It was emotional for them as well.
Not only did a lot of them go there for Mike, Mike is the only coach that has been at Oklahoma State for most of those kids' lives, right? 21 years. Yeah. Most of those kids are probably 21 or under, and all they know is Mike Gundy as the head coach of the Cowboys. So obviously huge news out of Stillwater. And by the way, there is a football game to be played. We'll see what product is on the field Saturday, but they're a 3-touchdown underdog against Baylor. All right, we're going to take a timeout. We'll hear from one of Mike Gundy's former quarterbacks. Clint Shelf joins the show next. Welcome back to the End Zone along with Camryn Johnson. I am Colby Daniels. Nothing at all to talk about this week. The sports world, especially in the state of Oklahoma, has been really quiet, so we had to really dig deep to find topics this week. No, I'm kidding. I was able to catch up with former Oklahoma State quarterback Clint Shelf earlier in the week following the shocking news on Tuesday of Mike Gundy's firing. And Clint, like all of us, was pretty shocked by the news when it broke.
I think absolutely stunned is a apt expression for how I felt. I'm like you. You play on a Friday, a pretty embarrassing loss, and then you make it through the Monday cycle. You make it even Saturday, Sunday. I think once you get a Friday game, everything's obviously pushed off of its normal Saturday timeline, and you make it through that Monday. I just thought, okay, it's business as usual. If this loss didn't do it, then I figured he was just safe for the whole year, right? That he was going to get to finish out this year with the opportunity to possibly turn it around, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I was shocked. I think we've got a little group chat, and it kind of came across as
maybe what's best for the program and how you ultimately try and in some way pay your respects to what Mike Gundy has maybe earned. But ultimately, they have crossed that bridge. So I guess just your take on all the elements that, I think factor into this being an incredibly difficult decision for Chad Weiberg, which we saw yesterday in his press conference?
Yeah, I think the first thing I thought of, and I think the first thing that any player you talk to is going to remember, is something that Gundy used to say for sure weekly, maybe daily. And it was always a good reminder. He always said that no one person was bigger than the program. And I think back on that quote a lot. And I think that's ultimately what led to the decision for him to be let go. But the program is that way largely because of what he's done to build it, right? I mean, I think when you look at, we get this kind of behind us, you're going to look back at two names, in my opinion, T. Boone Pickens and Mike Gundy, as the biggest contributors to Oklahoma State football. And I know it's not great right now for the optics and for some people that wanted him there and keeping him throughout the season and what he's earned. But we have to remember that college football is now a business. And I think that's probably the best way that I can reconcile it, is that, you're competing with other schools who have already let their coaches go for the same pool of coaches, right? And basically it all boils down to money. And I think if you followed Oklahoma State for the last year or so, and there's been articles recently, you can go read that, the fundraising aspect hasn't really been there. There's been people that haven't wanted to give money. And so I think when you've got that pressure on Chad, and then you start piling up those losses, I think if you've ever really followed sports as a fan, when a coach has to clean house, that's kind of a last ditch effort, right? To make things right. And hopefully it solves some issues. And then you follow it up with the Oregon loss, 65 points, and then you lose at home to Tulsa. I think it just became too many things for him, to keep coaching. And I know it stinks, it's hard. He's been Oklahoma State football for as long as basically I've been a fan and a player. And so, it just adds up, and it comes down to, I think, money and being a business, and you want to be a school that is taken seriously. And when you're losing at home to Tulsa, and that's not a disrespect to them by any means. They came out and played really hard, had a good game plan, and I really like what Coach Lamb's building over there. But if you think Oklahoma State is a program that needs to be competing for college football playoffs and Big 12 championships, then I think it sends a serious message that we're for real, and we want to get aligned with the donors and the money and make this a desirable job.
So going forward, Doug Meacham is the interim coach, along with being the offensive coordinator. Chad Weiberg said yesterday he's going to handle everything between the lines, and Rob Glass is going to oversee the program as a whole, basically handle everything outside of the lines. Two guys that you obviously know from your time in Stillwater. What are your thoughts on Rob Glass and Doug Meacham essentially being the co-interim coach?
Yeah, it's a super interesting marriage of two personalities, that's for sure. I'm excited to see, I don't know what all that entails for Coach Glass, if that's talking to the media or what that looks like, or if Doug will handle that. I know Coach Meacham has a presser later today, but I know I would be excited for a Rob Glass interview or questions. So I'm excited to see that, hopefully, if that happens. But I think it's in good hands. Coach Glass has been there forever. Obviously, Doug Meacham was there for a long time when I played and is being brought back. But, it's going to be hard. He was in charge of the offense. And as coordinators, I can imagine that you feel bad when the head coach gets fired, because you probably think it's partly your fault for not doing enough. So I know he's going to have a lot on his plate. Obviously, quarterback injuries and if Haas comes back, what they're going to do there. But he's just got to continue to keep his head down and work. I think he loves the profession. He loves football. And it's a great opportunity for him and his family.
There you go. Appreciate Clint Shelf giving us his insight on everything that went down this week with the Oklahoma State Cowboy football program. All right, we've got to take a timeout. The NBA champs are getting ready to start another campaign. It's hard to believe the confetti was just falling, and now they're getting ready to start a new season. Sam Presti's press conference for the upcoming season next here on the End Zone. All right, welcome back to the show. The confetti was falling inside the Paycom Center just a couple months ago. Oklahoma City, the reigning world champions, and now they're getting ready to defend their championship. They don't necessarily look at it that way. This is a total reset for the Thunder. They are not going into this season with any sort of like championship mentality. They feel like they've got to earn everything. And I thought Sam Presti really hammered that point home today in his introductory press conference to the 2025-2026 season.
Last season was a special year in our very, very brief organizational history, but the process of becoming a great team did not end last season. In order to become a great team again is the discipline and humility to turn the page. To maximize this coming season, we have to voluntarily divorce ourselves from the success of last season, or it will hold us back. People handle the year after winning the championship differently. The challenges are well documented, and the odds are clear that they're severely stacked against the team that won. The primary reason for that is simple. It's very, very, very hard to win. One time. It requires a combination of positioning, execution, and you need randomness to fall in your favor. Last season, we talked about nothing being expected, but anything being possible, and that's how we feel again this year.
I swear all of that stuff just happened yesterday. I mean,
Right?
like watching the video, reliving it, I'm like, that just happened. Now
Yeah.
we're starting a new season.
I like the phrase he used, involuntarily divorce
That's
ourselves.
right.
I don't think I've heard that one before, but that's a clever way to. I think that's a great thing, though, that they are not looking at it as all right, let's go for number 2. I mean, they've made all the moves to go that direction, but I think the best thing you can do after winning a championship is forget that it happened. And, you know, you hear football coaches a lot say go 1-0 each week.
That's what
the
they did in the
mentality,
postseason run as well. They were
Yeah.
able to reset after every big win and say, we haven't done anything yet. Now we have to reset and win another game. And so if anybody can, I think, put that in the rear view and focus on what's ahead, it's that group for sure. It's going to be a fun ride this season as the reigning NBA champs. All right. Adam King has begged us to talk MAC football on this program for over a year, so we made him a deal. We're going to give him 10 seconds of MAC football right now on the End Zone.
Oh, Camryn, Colby, we got a battle. Loser leaves town here for the inside track, maybe for that group of 5 playoff spot. 2 of the 3 betting favorites for the MAC, Bowling Green, Ohio University, play this Saturday.
And that was 10 seconds of MAC football here on the End Zone. We might have him back next week because Kent State plays Oklahoma. Should be a ton of fun. All right, picks next here on the End Zone.
Time now for the Brahms in the Bag Pick of the Week.
All right, let's jump straight into it because this is a massive college football weekend, a ton of big games across the board, and we got to start with Notre Dame desperately needing some wins against your alma mater.
Yeah, they also desperately need some wins. You know, there's a shirt I once saw that says Arkansas almost always almost wins. We've seen that the last 2 weeks. I think that's the same deal this week. I think they keep it close, but Notre Dame ultimately gets back in the win column.
You know what? You're getting points from me just for not automatically choosing your school. So I love that. You're keeping it real. Yeah, look, I think urgency has got to be on Notre Dame's side. I think they go in and get a win. But to your point, I think Arkansas does push them throughout the game. All right, game number 2 this weekend, LSU at Ole Miss. Both of these teams have a high ceiling. Both of these teams may be a little bit underperforming.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. This one's kind of a toss-up, and I think I went with Ole Miss on this one just sheerly because of the home field advantage. I think it could go either way. It's going to be really close, but yeah.
Ole Miss, probably similar to Penn State, which we'll talk about in a little bit, always makes me nervous in big games against big teams. I got to take LSU. I feel like more of a proven commodity in these types of matchups, and I'm getting points, so give me the 1.5 for LSU. Speaking of Penn State, top 5 matchup in college football here, Oregon at Penn State.
Yeah, it's going to be tough on the road there, but I think Oregon, to me, while they haven't really played any tested opponents yet, I think Oregon's looking like one of the best teams in the country, as you can tell by their ranking. I think they still win on the road.
I think these are 2 of the most elite rosters in all of college football. The difference is Oregon wins big games, Penn State really doesn't, so I'll take the Ducks, plus a field goal, and that half point is very valuable when picking against the spread. All right, Alabama, Georgia, this was probably the game of the year last year.
Yep, another one that's a toss-up. I'm just going with Georgia solely because they're at home. I do think it will be decided a one-score game, so I'm going with the home team on this one.
Close game, give me the points. I'm not sure who wins. All right, finally, Oklahoma State, 3-touchdown underdog hosting Baylor.
I think there's a lot of emotions right now, and OSU's going to surprise some people. They won't win, I don't think, but they do keep it under that 21.
They're one of the worst offenses in the country. Defense isn't much better. That passing attack, I think, ultimately is too much. Give me Baylor minus the 20.5. I hope I'm wrong. Hope Oklahoma State shows up in a big way. That's Camryn Johnson. I'm Colby Daniels. Everybody have a great college football weekend.